Thursday, and welcome to another Forever Friends Academy live episode with Sharla Kornegay. I am an author, recording artist, and creator of Interask Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, which is my subscription based membership group coaching on relationships that I do. And this is my show titled after the same name. And this is a place where you come to get fundamental principles of how you can ground and set the foundation of your relationships. And my main goal is to teach people and help people and support people to learn how to love to their fullest capacity, that then, of course, will overflow into all of the relationships that they keep. So hopefully you'll find something that you like tonight, something you can apply to your relationships, etc. If you're new, welcome, 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 welcome. If you're not, welcome back. And definitely, if you hear anything that you like, definitely take some time out to subscribe to my YouTube Forever Friends Academy channel. And of course, like, comment, spread the word, all of the above. So how you guys doing tonight? As always good to be on here with you. I want to, and for those of you, because let me make this announcement because I realized that I didn't make the announcement the last time that I was on. Usually, normatively, I come on every Thursday and Sundays at 8:30 p.m. And I've started working on some new projects, and I realized to be able to have sustainability in doing this, that the Sundays I wasn't being able to make it. So I am, just to let you guys know, I'll be coming on Thursday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I won't come on the Sundays. I am working on something new where I can kind of merge the singing along with the coaching. So I want to make sure I get that done. But I will post and release videos in between, through the week so that you guys I can feel like I'm here with you, you know. So I just want to let you guys know that because I realized that I changed the schedule and I didn't really inform you guys, outright. So if you're looking for me, no more Sunday live videos, at least right now in this season, just to make sure I can get some of the other projects I'm working on that I want to get to you. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you can get the live video, show feed. So that's that. All right. I want to continue the conversation we started about having inviting conversations, but I have to. Well, there's two things today, right? Today is the anniversary of 9/11. So I definitely want to honor those who have loved ones that they lost on that day, as well as the heroic individuals that helped, So definitely want to take time out for that. But I think also I also, if I don't know, depending on who's here with me, maybe you haven't heard the news. It's pretty much all over the news right now of the killing of Charlie Kirk. And I hope I'm saying his name right because I only recently, and I want to look it up to make sure I gave you guys the right. I believe I said it right, but just it doesn't hurt to double check, especially with me because I am okay. I was right, Charlie Kirk. Okay, I just wanted to be sure. And yeah, I got the news last night. I was on the phone with Ben, and then I looked on my phone and saw the heart. I mean, it's just absolutely heart wrenching to hear about really his assassination, that someone could take his life. And I know that there are people who didn't like his viewpoints, his political viewpoints, and some of the things that his rhetoric and the things that he stood for. But I think in moments like this, humanity above all, I was listening to a short snippet of the Stephen A. Smith podcast, and I like what he said. He was talking about it, and he was saying that, thank God for sports activities because it is one area of life where all of the differences that we have with, cross cultures and things like that, political viewpoints, all of the different views kind of like, you know, drop because people who love the sport, people who love certain teams, they come together, and it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. We just all are here and united, coming to watch this game and coming to support the team that we all love. And I loved what he was saying because he was basically using that as a point of saying that no matter what you or how you feel about a person, there's just certain things that happen in life that it just some part of our humanity, right, should forget about what the differences that we had with that person and know that that's just a horrific act that shouldn't happen. And I didn't know when I was listening to the podcast, he said that, he was assassinated in front of his wife and his children. And, you know, uh, he has two children that are under the age of 5, 3, and 1 years old. And it's just heart wrenching. I have my family, I have my husband. And so just to know that someone can have that much, hate to take someone, you know, off this earth just because of a difference that they have is just so I want to get into the topic, but I would be, you know, I had to come out and say something because it's pretty heavy when you think of it. And I think the part that really kind of shocked me, not past beyond the fact that, right, he was very young, 31 years old, and then he's leaving his wife and his young children, but the fact that there were others that were celebrating his death, right, his assassination, just because he had certain different viewpoints. I think when we get to that point, that's where we have to like stop and say, okay, what about, humaneness, humanity, like above all, no matter what you think about that person, no one should be cheering that something like that happened to an individual like that. And as far as I didn't listen to him extensively. He was on a couple of podcasts that I do listen to on and off. And anytime that seen him, it wasn't like I never saw him as an individual who spewed out like hate. So for the response to be of celebration of his death is just like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? How far have we come away from just having regular empathy and just regular care and kindness? So I wanted to, before we dive into tonight's topic, just to bring those two things up because I think I also came across one little snippet from a podcast where they had asked him, if, or if and when you die, what would you want to be known for? And he said, I would definitely want to be known for my faith, to be remembered for how I stood up for my faith. And, hands down, I think you can say whatever you want to say about him, regardless of his political viewpoints and things like that. He definitely stood on his faith and definitely professed Christ, at least every time that I saw him on a show or on, a podcast or things like that. So, yeah, it's just, it truly is heartbreaking. I can't imagine what his, just sending out eternal prayers to his wife and his family and his children. So, yeah, didn't want to put too much of a somber mood, but I just have to be authentic. Definitely was what I was thinking about for a majority of today, from last night going into today. So, and I think it does tie in with some of the points that I want to bring up tonight as far as how to have inviting conversations in relationships. And the one that I wanted to bring up is just to have empathy and care, empathy and care for the person that you are engaging with. Because when you have that, there's actually a sense of care and empathy, a true desiring to put myself in your shoes to understand what your perspective is or what your viewpoint is, that is most definitely going to create an environment where someone would want to continue to engage with you over and over again. And I think for all of us, I know for me, definitely when I think about my marriage with Ben, if I have some exciting news, he's the first person I want to say it to. If I'm going through a rough, hard time, he's the one that I want to express myself to get some kind of comfort and peace, or to kind of like work things out and process things through. And I think every one of us, who it desires to be in a healthy relationship, a relationship where you feel like you're getting the support that you need, and you know that this person is in your corner, wants that, right? You want your person to be the person who, when you have some good news, that's the first person you want to say, or express to. And, if you're going through something else, that's maybe a low point in your life, that you can run straight to them, and they can kind of be like a healing balm. The conversation with them will be like a healing balm to you. So, but let me review some of the because before, on the last podcast, we talked about four ways to create an inviting environment to communicate with each other. So just let me review that really quickly for maybe someone who wasn't on and didn't catch that episode, but might want to know the four things that we talked about. So we talked about understanding that communication is always happening, even if you're not vocalizing and opening up your mouth. That we look at body language, we look at definitely appearance. That's a big thing because, many people will decide how they're going to interact with you, treat you, engage with you based on your appearance. Whether you feel like it's sad to say, it just is the truth, right? And people, as they say, first impressions are everything. Sometimes people look at you and just like make a complete judgment based on how you appear. So that's something that we talked about. So understanding that communication is happening all the time in your relationship, not just when you decide to vocalize it, and how we can use that and utilize that in a healthy way is the communication method that you, I guess, feel more at ease in using. Looking at all the other ways that you can communicate to your partner, and kind of going more in leaning into more of communicating with them in that way. And so I gave them just a simple example that I usually give my clients, where I'll ask them to look at, what's the main way that you guys communicate with each other. Majority of the time it is vocalizing, right? And talking to each other. So I'll tell them, maybe commit to a week of just like writing little love notes or whatever, sticky notes, leaving them different parts of their home, and having your partner find it, or maybe text through the day, right? Because maybe some of us in the relationship started out doing that, thinking about the person and then shooting them a text and a loving message to let them know. And sometimes that dwindles and we don't do that anymore. So oftentimes I will look at their modes of communication and then say, okay, this is the one, right, that we're going to consistently do this week. And you'll be surprised at how just using a different mode of communication brings them closer together and brings a deeper connection to it, especially the writing down. Sometimes I'll have them, do sticky notes, or they have these journals. Let me know any married couples on here, and if you guys have ever done it, I think it's pretty cool, where they have like the journal for your wife or the journal for your husband, and you basically a lot of them are 365 days, and you can like at the end of end of the day or in the morning, you can like write, different things, I guess, gratitude, sentiments of gratitude of either how they helped you out that day, or just any kind of sentiment that you have for them. So I think that's cool. Sometimes I'll do that with my clients, but it brings a extra, deepening depth of connection in the relationship, I've seen when they do that. So that was number one. Understand that there are different modes of communication. We talked about practicing. before you actually say it. And I know I said it on the last episode that maybe someone might hear it and say, oh gosh, but why do I have to do all of that? Right? Like maybe this relationship is not for me if I have to go to those lengths to be able to communicate with this person. And I totally understand what you're saying or your feeling or your sentiment in that way. But I say there's nothing to lose in it. And honestly, how about we look at it the other way around that, okay, if this person is in my life, I've committed, definitely if it's a marriage and you vow to this person for better or worse, then whatever it is, right, that I have an opportunity to cultivate or improve our relationship, then I'm willing to do it. Period, point blank, right? And I told the participants that were on the last episode is that you don't lose anything doing that. I was telling them uh, what it why that idea came to my mind is because I have a background in communication studies. That's what I graduated with. But I also have a background in theater arts and, of course, singing. And those are all things that we do because they always tell you that you want to practice and see how the audience is experiencing you, because you can say something and you might have an intention in your mind for it to come across in a certain way, but we as people, we have micro expressions and things like that, and sometimes we don't know how we're coming across. So oftentimes that was a part of our activities, before we had to do a speech or before we had to do a performance and things like that. So it doesn't have to be this taxing thing, or you feel feeling like it's studying in that way. But it's kind of good to study yourself. It's good to know how people are experiencing you, because sometimes we just don't know. I have a lot of activities that I'll give my clients where that's what the main objective is. It's like, okay, you go around with your inner circle, ask how they think of you in all of these areas or how they experience you, and you'll be surprised. It's very surprising to get some of the answers back to what they say. So that was one of them that we talked about. Of course, we talked about listening, definitely the most, I think, important. The most, as I put it in when we were on the last time, it's the most overlooked, I think, but listening is one of the major parts of communication. And if you are listening, it definitely shows that you do want to have, or you have a heart posture to understand more than you just wanting to state your point or project, your feelings on someone else. So those are some of the things that we talked about the last time we were on. And I'm only going to present two things tonight, just to keep it nice and simple and short for you guys. And the first one I've already said as I entered the conversation, that just care, having an actual earnest caring for the individual that you are engaging with. I know it's like, because I think of it as I'm thinking like, okay, what am I going to introduce to you guys tonight? And you say, I'm in my brain, I'm thinking like, oh, that's so simple or so easy, But sometimes, and you guys let me know, but sometimes the most simple things are the most impactful and also sometimes the most challenging for us to kind of like consistently show up and do, you know. But yeah, just simply just caring for the individuals that you're talking to, having a heart to have empathy on whatever their process that they're going through, whatever they're telling you, just receiving what they're saying with care, and being able to, as you're listening to them and they're giving that to you in the way that you are responding, in all of the ways, right, that the communication is happening, meaning your body language, how you are receiving what they give to you should reflect the care that you have for them. So that definitely is going to create an inviting environment where someone would want to go back time and time again to speak with you, and because they know, like, okay, this person earnestly cares for me. Like I definitely feel that way when I talk to my husband Ben. It's like I know no matter what, he has my best interest in mind, always, 1,000%, and never will not have it, because he cares for me. So very simple, but very powerful. I often, sometimes I'll tell my husband that, oh my gosh, sometimes he doesn't even have to say a word to me. Sometimes he can just look at me and I can feel the care that he has for me. And that's like, whoa, for me, it's phenomenal because I didn't have an idea of how I particularly wanted to experience, or how it was supposed to be to experience a authentic type of relationship or authentic type of love. So to experience it and have someone communicate communicate to you a depth of care for your who you are and your well-being, and wanting to nurture that without someone like actually vocalizing it, and just being able to feel that the demonstration or the conveying of that sincere message to you is like, there's nothing. I don't even think I have the right words to really articulate how that feels. So that's number one. Just actually having a certain amount of care for the person that you're engaging with, and that can show up, as I said, being empathetic to them, really wanting to understand what their process is. And I say it all the time when I come on here, like one of the most beautiful parts of a relationship is understanding that you are, uniting with this individual that you'll probably never understand fully in totality, because God just made us complex. We're complex human beings, not, doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't mean, I'm not saying that you have to like pull your hair out and things like that. I don't mean in an unhealthy way like that. I just mean that life, as we evolve and as you get to see people respond, and how it changes them and how they evolve with the things that they have to handle. I mean, it's a ever unfolding story. So understanding that this is someone's life and their life is precious, and you want to cherish the time and the moments that you have with them. So when you're conversating with them, you want to handle all of these things with like just precious care. So, and that's why I said I kind of tied it in with coming into the beginning of the podcast, talking about the assassination of, Charlie Kirk, and how it doesn't, you have people online that are celebrating the fact that this man has lost his life. He was killed, he was murdered, and his children have lost a father, his wife has lost her husband. And how do we get to a point, no matter what you feel about whatever his views was, what about just the right, like, where's the humanity, where's just the character, like, not the character, I'm sorry, the natural instinct caring of a person's life, and so like when I see things like that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how far gone have we gotten to the point that where if somebody says something or what they believe offends you so much that you can celebrate the death of somebody who wasn't someone who was like spewing out, you know what I mean, like evil or wanting to. It's like, whoa. Hey, Emily, I didn't even know you were in here. How are you, love? How are you doing? Thank you for popping in. We are continuing the conversation about how to have inviting conversations. And tonight, the first part of it that I put out is just to have genuine care for the person you're engaging with. And I know it sounds simple, but boy, oh boy, is it not. Especially if you're in a situation where somebody has offended you, things like that. I don't even want to talk to you right now. If I'm very, uh, to get back into a space of understanding, like, okay, well, this is a person that I actually genuinely, truly do care about, and I value their life. I value the energy and the time that they're giving me, right? All of those are things that you can look out for to know that someone is actually expressing a certain amount of care about who you are and the time that they are having with you, right? Because I say it all the time here, that you guys could be anywhere else. So I want to thank you, utmost gratitude for you taking out whatever couple of seconds, minute, or maybe you were on with me for the whole time, because your time and your energy is priceless, right? And those are the vital, essential resources that God has given us to, right, optimally experience the life that we're living. So it does matter who you give that energy to. It does matter, right, what you take out your time to invest, your faith in. Yeah. So when you are engaging with someone who is able to kind of show you, right? Show you that, okay, yeah, I I I care about your time. I care about your energy. I understand that if you're here engaging with me, then that means it's taking time away from something else, right? So you know that if that person has a certain level, of care, just of an understanding, right, of how precious your time and your engagement and your energy is. So, hey, I see some other people coming in. How are you guys? My beautiful cousin Ivory, how are you? And Bag Marathon LLC. Okay, I think this is your first time to the podcast. If it is, welcome, welcome. We are continuing a conversation tonight about how to have inviting conversations in relationships. And my first one that I put out for tonight, we already went over four. So the first one for tonight was just having a genuine care for the person that you're engaging with. And I know it sounds super simple, but you'd be surprised. And I opened up the conversation. I don't know if those who came in at a later point, I started off the podcast tonight talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. If you don't know who he is, he's political activist, things like that. And he was assassinated yesterday in front of an audience. His wife and his children was there. I just found out that today, which was like heart-wrenching to me. And I started it, putting out the first kind of principle of how to have inviting conversations to kind of tie in with the news, because there are some people who, of course, who are heartbroken over it, but then there are other people, because he had for some, controversial. I always mess up with that word. Is it controversial? Okay, but y'all get me right. um, there was lots of controversy around some of his political views. And so online, there were some people that were actually celebrating the fact that this man got assassinated. And I was just like, oh man, where is the humanity? Like, I don't care if you have, a totally different viewpoint from how he feels about politics and things like that. There are just certain things in life that are so horrific that it should unite us all together to say, man, that wasn't right. Like, just a simple foundational type of understanding of just caring about a human life, So I kind of use that to facilitate the conversation tonight. So that's why I say it's simple, but in times we can see how it can be very hard, especially, and that's a stark, right? That's a stark example. But let's just put it in a simple example of, okay, you hurt my feelings, you offended me. I don't really want to express the care that I have for you right now, right? No, I don't want to give that to you, so it's going to take going back to, the heart of who we are as human beings, to understand, right, that we should just have a basic understanding of caring for the precious time that we have here, the precious life that we have here. So bringing, those things back to your mind when you are trying to have engaging conversations with your spouse, your partner, etc. If they know that you have an authentic care for them, there's nothing that they would not want to bring to you and not feel safe to expose about what their inner thoughts are, or their inner struggles. If there is a foundation of just care, and I always say it goes back to not personalizing the condition that the person is in. I think just having a baseline of care that has to be set, because it's very easy when things go on in the relationship to take the things that go on personal. But these things, you really realize that they're bigger than you. And the people's struggles sometimes go beyond, them specifically wanting to target you. It's just that what that person's dealing with. And even if you took you away, they'd still have to deal with, that issue. They'd still have to grow in that area. So yeah, to have a person that knows that, like, okay, yeah, I value your time. You want to deal with someone, right? I value your time. I value your conversation. Your words mean, your words matter, because I know they're just not separate from you. It's coming from someplace, right? So just having that. So that's number one. Number two is something that I tell. I love this. I love it. I can't say I love it anymore. That I do with my clients, and I particularly like to offer my clients this, especially if they're having conflict in a relationship. And you guys might have seen it, because I've seen videos where I'll see some pastors do it in services and things like that. And it's basically, it kind of ties in with one of the principles that we talked about on our first conversation about how to have inviting conversations, which was, I stated that communication is always happening, and that you want to focus on not just what you're vocalizing, but your body language, right? Your micro expressions and things like that. So oftentimes I'll tell my couples who are going through a conflict to position their bodies in a certain way. And so I'm trying to think of which one I could do. There's one where I think I saw it on Instagram, where you'll have the couple and they'll have to put their foreheads together, and so literally they'll have to put their foreheads together, and in that position they have to explain whatever it is, right, that their partner did that upset them and things like that. And so the idea is basically you put yourself in a position where it's very hard, right, to kind of stay in in a funky mood, or stay in and be angry. It's like, okay, this physical position that we're putting our body in is acting as a diffuser, right? It's basically being able to kind of like, take all of the anger and the combativeness that might come up when there are offenses made in the relationship. And I absolutely love it. It works every single time, because it's hard, right? When you get into certain positions, to either not laugh about it because it's so ridiculous, or there's sometimes, especially for my married couples, they'll be in an intimate, like interlocked position. Like one of them is like, if you're sitting on the floor, you're both on the floor, the wife wraps her legs around her husband, and then they are face to face, and then they talk about whatever it is that they need to talk about, right? And that, it works miracles, because they're able to have an intimate conversation, and then, right, become intimate in other ways, and then there's a deeper connection that happens. So that's number two for tonight. But let me welcome some folks. Hey, Lino. Oh, wow. I haven't seen you in a while. Danya, Enterprise, Lino, Landside, and Teddy V. How are you guys doing tonight? We are talking about how to have inviting conversations in relationships. Communication is always happening. Communication is key. I'm sure you guys have heard that over and over again. And we are talking about some tips on how to, right? Because if the fact, which is the truth, communication is key, we want to make sure that we're setting an environment where we're motivated, we're inspired, we're encouraged to communicate with each other. So definitely, you guys are on here and you're hearing my thoughts, but definitely I would love to hear yours, especially have some gentlemen in here. I would love to hear what the guys' thoughts are. The question that I had put out the last time I was on was, what are the things that either someone has done in a relationship that you're either currently in or was in that made afforded inviting environment that encourage you to want to communicate with them. So I put the link. If you don't want to type, you can come in your camera appropriate. You can come up and actually come live on the show with me and talk it out. I would love that. So I put it in all of the places just in case you wanted to come on. So you can definitely answer it in that way. I also, this is a continuation of a last podcast that I did, and I did ask some of the participants, do you think that you create an environment where your partner, people, thinks it's inviting. It's inviting to communicate with you, So you can answer it in that way too. But welcome. Thank you guys for popping in. I so appreciate it. So yeah, those were the two that I wanted to bring up because I don't want to. I know all these people coming in now. I've been on for a while, so kind of heading out now. But those are the two that I wanted to really, really present to you guys tonight. So which is just having a genuine care for the person that you're with. And I know it seems so simple, but in this life, I've found that it's really easy to get caught up in what's going on with us. You know what I mean? I think if one of the most, if not the most challenging part of having a relationship is the fact that you have to serve someone else, you have to consider someone else. It's not just you anymore. And to consistently do that, it's not easy for a lot of people because we do have a certain amount of time in the day, and it's not as I forget the name of the person who is the author of this quote. When I come back on, I'll find it and tell you guys. I've heard many different people say it, but it's not how you manage your time, right? It's how you manage your energy. And so sometimes, because we're still all trying to figure that out, like where do I place my faith? Where do I put my energy? And if you find out that if you misplace the energy, then it kind of has this trickling effect where you don't have the energy to do maybe other things that you should have prioritized. So I always say to people, like, one of the ways that, because people always come up and ask, like, how do I know I'm ready for marriage, or how do I know I'm ready to be in a relationship? And I always say, without a shadow of doubt, you will see that you, one, start considering serving more than just yourself, right? Where your heart, and you'll also not just experience it in your heart, but you'll also see that you've built up a certain capacity to now just not take care of just yourself, but other people. And it's kind of like the organic way that a relationship grows, where you have the two people come together and they are now not just considering just themselves, they're considering each other. And then if that family grows to have children, then right, it just compounds. So it's like, okay, now I was just thinking about myself, but now I have to think about you. And now, right, this has to be brought to our children, right? And now we have to figure out this beautiful dance of life of how do we, right, pour into ourselves so we're not pouring from an empty cup. And then how do we now pour into each other? And how does that overflow to our children and all of the other responsibilities that we have? So I think that's one of the most beautiful challenges that we experience in the relationships that we keep is, okay, I always say my husband's quote that I love to say all the time: misplaced faith is failure, but misplaced energy too, right? You know what I mean? So it seems like a very simple thing just for someone to have a certain amount of care for you. But when we see instances like that I brought up where people are celebrating the loss of someone's life who got assassinated in front of their children, regardless of how you feel about that person, where's the tapping in to humanity? That like someone's life is precious. So so sounds simple, but not always. Some of the most simplest things are sometimes, again, the most challenging, right? Like listening when all you want to do is respond. All I want to do is tell you how you made me feel, and I need you to know and acknowledge that, right? Listening, it's a simple thing, but it's hard to do in that moment when all I want to do is tell you off and tell you about yourself. Here I have to get into a mode of, okay, let me consider you. Let me how do I in this conversation reflect the care that I have for you, even in the midst of this conflict right now, because I care for you. At the end of the day, I care. If I'm angry, it's because I want us to be in a space where we're in alignment together and we're in harmony. And right now we're not. And so, yeah, I'm frustrated. But at the end of the day, I don't want the frustration to overwhelm the fact that I do care about you and who you are and in the precious, condition of your life. Sometimes just going back to those simple yet so fundamental, and essential aspects, of life is what will bring us back, right? And kind of help us to navigate the challenging waters that, presents itself to us in our relationships, And I think just like in the example that I brought up, with the people who were celebrating the death, the assassination of this 31-year-old man, so young. Oh my gosh. And this the loss of a father, the loss of a husband, that's where, we need to check, like, okay, what's going on? How we've gone too far to the point, right? Where we're putting our energy and placing our energy into spaces and places that energy does not belong. Like I can disagree with you about certain things, but in no way should that make me want to wish for your life to be ended, so very definitely heavier example, but on the lighter side, it's still the same thing, right? Where, okay, can I put aside my offense to make sure that, right, in the way that we're communicating with each other, in the way we're navigating this issue or conflict that we have, are we creating a space to where we go back to the genuine care that we have for each other, and how can I ask myself in that moment, in the way that I'm responding to you and in the way I'm engaging with you, is it reflecting the care that I have for you? And if it's not, then how can I readjust in the moment so that it does? Because I want that to be communicated with you. I want that you to connect to that, no matter what it is that we're talking about and that we're trying to work through, right? So definitely care. And what I love, which is getting to a certain positioning. If you're a person, everybody's different. Some people like, laughter and fun. And so some people might want to get into positions that are like, is going to bring out the comedy. Like I think the foreheads together, and you're not supposed to, break apart, right? So your foreheads are supposed to be directly, attached to each other while you're ranting about, I didn't like the way you left the toilet up. I didn't like the fact that you didn't do the laundry. I didn't like when you said this, So in that type of position, it's very hard. It's going to be very hard to stay in a state of anger, just because of the body, the way the body's positioned. So I love that because it's a easy de-escalator, right? And I think in moments where we have conflicts in relationships, let's find whatever we can use, whatever resources we can use to de-escalate, the situation so that it doesn't, become this combustible, fiery kind of engagement between us. So I love it because it's simple, right? It doesn't take much from us and it works all by itself before we're even trying to hash out whatever difference that we have. So if you're a person who likes to laugh, you can do something like that. If you want, the other example that I gave you, you can have a more intimate positioning where you're kind of locked into each other and, use it in that way because it's going to be very hard, especially if you got husband, wife's legs wrapped around a husband explaining, her discontent or whatever is going on in the relationship. It's very hard to stay, angry when you're in a position like that. So that's something simple that you can do, that you can use. It works if you just have to do it, right? You just have to do it. So yeah, that's the two that I wanted to bring to you guys tonight. I think we're going to do next Thursday, just probably part 3 to this to get through the entire list. I think I have maybe like 3 more to give you guys that you can use and apply in your relationships to create an inviting environment for communicating with each other. So let me know what your thoughts are, whether you're here or catching the replay. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know out of the two, which one you feel like you can apply, which one it would be easier for you to do. Anything like that. And definitely share with me some of the methodologies that you have used in your relationships that has worked. And I definitely will come on and share it with everybody on the live because listen, the more information, the better. Right? Especially if we can apply it to our relationships, the better. So definitely flood my feed. Let me know what your thoughts are. And as per usual, if you heard anything that you liked tonight, definitely subscribe to my Forever Friends Academy YouTube channel where the full episodes are. And of course, spread, like, comment, share the content so other people can hear it. And I want to give my shout outs. Thank you for those who stopped by. Of course, Emily, beautiful Ivory, Bag Marathon, Danya Enterprises, Lino Landslide, Teddy V, which I'm not sure if it's your first time, but I think definitely Healing Bennett. I think it was your first time tonight. Correct me. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but thank you all for coming in. I appreciate it. As always, I always say it. You're precious time and energy. The fact that you took time out to be with me, I appreciate it. All right. So I'm gonna get off. You guys have a nice, restful night. And as I always like to say, always remember to live to love freely. Until next time, folks. Bye-bye.